Hello and welcome to my Isle of Dogs on Access YouTube channel, and in the first video for some months I'm going to be again talking about modern charts, and this time how to add marker lines to them by two different methods. There's a related article on my website, as always, isleofdogs.co.uk, modern chart marker lines. Okay, now why would you want to do this? Well, for example, if you are using medical or financial data, you may well wish to display target lines on their chart. And there are two ways that you can do that. First of all, the simplest way is just to add a reference line as an extra series on a combo chart. And you can then use combo boxes to adjust the position of the line or lines. But there is an issue with this, that you cannot easily show and hide the line at runtime. We can get more flexibility by overlaying the chart with a line. Now, that was easy to do with classic charts, but the nature of modern charts is that you need to use a little bit of trickery in order to set this up. And I found out a way of doing this by pure accident, which I'm going to explain today. But the advantage of doing this, or it's a little bit more complicated, is that there's significant additional functionality possible. Let me show you the example app which you can get from my website. Now, there are 6 different examples progressing from the simplest through to the most advanced method here, and the first 3 use a line as an extra series on a combo chart. Let's start with the simplest. We've got a column chart here, and the column chart has got some fictitious blood data for cholesterol levels, and it's part of a series of data with a whole series of other blood tests that you could use if you wish to do so. Doctors will obviously tend to set targets for their patients, and I've written in a target here of 190 for the total cholesterol level. And as you can see here, over the period in which that data was actually set, the number of points above the target is significantly greater than the number where they started to bring it down to get it below there. Now, the way that I've actually set up this data, I'll go to design view, and we've got a query called query cholesterol Cartesian, and that is here, and you can see that we've got 2 series there, the actual blood data and a reference line value 190. Now, that reference line is actually just a single figure in a separate table, and I've used a Cartesian query, which basically means there is no join between the 2 tables there, so you get this field here added for every single record in the other table there. So hence we've got a continuous horizontal line showing there. Now, that works well. It's incredibly easy to set up, but the disadvantage of this is that you can't easily see the effect of altering the target line. So let's take it a stage further and go on to one where you've got a movable target line, and you can easily do that by using a combo box. And here then, if I change that, the line will instantly move up or down, and the number of points above and below the target will vary in each case here. And as I'm changing that, then it's saving the new value. Let's just change that to something else there. It's saving the new value in this table here, and that will then be used in any other future charts unless we change it again. It doesn't have to just be for column charts, combo charts with a column. You can also do it with a line chart. And here I've added the grid lines that were added in the modern chart improvements back in 2024. Not available when I first set up this in an earlier article here. So exactly the same idea as before. So we've again got the idea of where the target line is here. But what I can't do, say I found that a bit too cluttered and I just want to look at the data, I can't easily turn that on and off. And I'm going to alter that in the next example there. Now, in the next example, I've got a column chart and I've got a separate line. And the idea is that the separate line will overlay that. And as you can see here, unfortunately, it doesn't work. The marker line is below the chart. It's completely useless. And if I just go to design view and show you what I tried to do for this, and I knew this was going to fail from the properties of this here, but we've got an arrange feature there. So if I select the chart, I can arrange that to go to the back. And I select the line if I wanted to, just to be doubly sure, not really necessary to do both, and I can arrange that to the front. But you'll notice that although that would work for most access controls, it doesn't work here. Despite that, the line is still at the back. Absolutely useless. And the reason why that is the case is you've got two different types of access control. Windowed controls, such as modern charts, subforms, edge browse controls, and a list box control, are all windowed controls, and the nature of those is they always appear on top of non-windowed controls, which is just about everything else: text boxes, lines, labels, etc. And so there is no way that you should be able to get that line to go on top of the chart, which is what we need. But to fix this, I found by pure accident that with some additional steps, we can trick access into displaying the line on top of the chart. And I can show you that in the next one here. Say no to that again. And as you can see in the next one here, when I click on Show Target Line, it's appeared on top. The way that I have done that is that I add another control, which is a classic chart, to the same form. Let's just go here and look at the property sheet, and you will see on the property sheet that as well as the chart 0, which is this one, we've also got a graph 9 control, and that graph 9 control is there. Oh, but it was there till I clicked on it. That graph 9 control is a very, very small control. In fact, its height is 0 and its width is 0, but it's visible. And that's the trick that for some reason makes Access ignore the rules about window controls, and it allows the Z order to change. So I add a separate classic chart control to the form. I make it visible, but I reduce the size so effectively it can't be seen. And when I do that, it actually will allow other items, such as this line here, to overlay the modern chart. Why it works, I have no idea. It doesn't work for any other type of additional control. It doesn't work if you had a second modern chart. It just has to be a classic chart there. So if we add this, then we can now get the line on top, and just as before, we can move this up or down, and the number of different things will alter. All very nice, all very simple. How do we actually do that in this case? Well, the extra work that we have to do then is, as well as the classic chart, we can't have it showing at the time you load your form. There has to be something that changes. And the way that that can happen is threefold. You can change the size of the form, like this, here, by dragging it manually, or you could maximize it, or as in this particular case, I just click and you can see it's gone to the back when I did that there. Let me just do that again. Let's see if I can let that happen again. And if I maximize this, right, that also works. So maximizing, dragging, anything that resizes the form, including my automatic form resizing code, will work. But the simplest method is obviously just have a click on off button like this. That also gives us the advantage that we can decide whether or not we want to have the line appearing at all times. But the main point here is that you have to have it separately. So you need your classic chart control, and you need to have it done after the form loads. One more step here, and this time I've got two marker lines. I've got my target line as before, but I've also got a vertical line. And the vertical line is being used to check the different individual data points. Now you can see with my target at 220 here, I've actually identified and selected that data point, and I've done it by the date on here. So I've selected the May 2017 point, and its cholesterol level here is 2004, and that is therefore at the moment below that target. And you can see that it also is showing the date of the test, the value, and the fact that it is below the target line. Now if I update this, bring that down to 170. Now it's above the target value there, and so that has changed accordingly. Let's just move this along. Can move that to any of the other data points, and in each case it will tell you the data values. Now, the reason I actually decided to go down this route is this was actually planned as one of the improvements in modern charts, so they were going to give you a way where you could focus on a particular point and get a pop-up showing you the data value. Well, I've done it in a different way, which works quite nicely here. All you need to do for each of these things is to find a way of identifying where those lines are going to go. Now, for the horizontal line, I've got a separate table where, and this is used in this combo box here, it's got the values on the y-axis here, and then it's got the y position in TWIPs for each of those places there. So when I change that to here, let's say 240, now it knows that that 240 level there is at this particular y value on the chart. Change it to 290, and again it's got the value there. So what I've done is manually check those values, which took a few minutes, but it works well. And similarly for the x-axis, what I've done is on the blood data chart here, I've added an extra column, CT data position, cholesterol data position. Easier to see it if I just look at this query here. So we've got the date, we've got the way it's actually displayed on the chart, just the month and the year, the cholesterol level, and the data position level. So as I move across to each of these points here, it just moves the line to that X position. So it's a very simple setup once you actually are aware of the two conditions that you need to get this to work. The extra classic chart control that you don't actually see, and also setting this up so it is done after load time, and in doing that we can keep both of those lines always on top. The code is relatively simple. I'm not going to go through this in any detail at all now, but just to say that there are some safeguards with the code that ensure that it behaves as intended. And if I go to the last of these charts, the most complicated one there, we've got the DLOOKUP values will indicate the number of points that are above target, below target, or on target. That's very simple. After the date combo box is updated, then it will look up the position for the line, the vertical line called line dates. It then clicks the chart, and the reason it does that is it just basically reinforces the fact the lines will stay on top, and then it will just shift the position to actually where it should go. And in doing this, we then do a comparison of the value of the cholesterol level and the target line, and we get the above or below chart level. Similarly, for the target line, we update the data points here, and we then place the line according to the values in the combo box here for the target level, and again update that value there. There's some code here to actually deal with what happens if somebody accidentally or deliberately clicks on the charts. Now, if I just disable that code for a second, you will see the effect of doing that. Clicking on the chart brings it to the top, so therefore the two lines move to the back. I can click on this and so on, but it's a little bit irritating to do that. So what I've done instead is I've added code that if somebody does click on the chart, it basically negates the effect of doing that. So it turns off screen updating, it clicks on command show click, and the command show click basically runs through the same process as before. That will obviously reverse the effect, and then you have a short delay built in, do events, and then you reverse it again, and then you turn the updating. So basically you bring it back to where it was before. That keeps the lines on top. Other items there, clicking save button, I forgot to mention this. If you change this target value, you've got the option of saving it here, so that just updates in the table there. And the show command button I mentioned already, and when you load the form, then it will make sure that the lines are hidden at that stage and ready for you to then click to make them show later. That's it. I hope that made sense. I've got more videos planned for the future and hope to get back to doing that regularly. So if you found it useful, do add a like to this video and leave a comment, suggest topics for future videos, and please subscribe, and then you will get notifications whenever I do release new videos, which, as I said, I hope will happen regularly again from now on. Thanks for watching.